Good morning, everyone. It's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique. And today I want to do a little quick video on tubular peyote so I can wrap up my little tubular peyote, my peyote guides and tutorials that I've been working on this year. So we're just going to do a quick little refresher on flat peyote really fast because I want to get you in the mindset of how the stitch actually works. So I'm going to be just doing a couple of rows of flat peyote with these little beads here. I've got the blue stop bead on the end. Then I have two of these coral beads, 2 gold, 2 garnet, and 2 gold. So first thing we would do is we're going to pick up a bead. We're going to skip over this bead and go through the gold bead. So we skip one and go through one. And we're working back towards the tail thread at this point in flat peyote. Then you're going to position the little beads so they sit side by side. And something like that right there. Then we're going to pick up a bead. We'll go ahead and pick up a burgundy bead here. We're going to skip one and go through the next one. I'm going to pull that so it sits beside the little burgundy bead there. Now we're going to pick up another gold bead, skip one, go through one. These little check glass beads are really tiny. They are 11/0s. They're just some I picked up at Hobby Lobby. And then we're going to pick up one of our little coral color beads. We're going to skip this coral bead and go through this one here on the end, but not the stop bead. So then when we pull everything down, we have this cute little strip of peyote. I hope I wasn't out of frame, guys. Sorry. Let me zoom out just a little. All right, so then we would be flipping our work. And we're going to work back in the opposite direction. So now we're coming out of that coral bead. We're going to, going this way, we're going to pick up the color we're coming out of. Going the other way, I think we were doing the same, yeah. So we're going to pick up our coral bead, and we're going to go through this one we just added, which is this little one sticking out here. And I'm working to the left because I'm left-handed, but you may be working to the right. And it's a little fidgety when you first start, but it gets easier once you get some, length build up. Now we'll pick up a gold and go through the gold one sticking out. And I'm sure you guys remember this from our other videos, my other videos on peyote stitch. But I thought we'd just do a little quick refresher before we go into the tubular. So now I'm going to pick up the garnet bead, go through the garnet that's sticking out. And then finally this gold bead. And we'll go through the one here on the left, sticking out. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You would just continue flipping the work, and you would pick up the bead that the color you're coming out of, and you would go through the next bead. And you would just work your flat peyote that way. So in tubular peyote, it is the same exact principle. Give me just a moment to take this off my thread, and I'll come back and I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. So I've took that all off, and we're going to show you now some tubular. So I picked up the beads in the same exact order again. 2 of my coral, 2 gold, 2 garnet, 2 gold, and I'm just going to carry those down to the end of my thread. And then I'm going to pass back through all those beads again to form my little circle of beads. And make sure I don't skip any here. Pull that around. And I'm just going to leave myself a little bit of a tail thread, not much. Now, you can tie a knot here if you want, but I'm using this 0.008 wildfire beading thread, and I don't really want to do that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and pass through those 2 coral beads just like that, and I'm going to pull everything through to close my circle, just like that. And then I'm going to flip it over because I'm left-handed. So now we're going to take the same principle of peyote and apply it to this circular little tube here that we're going to make. So I'm coming out of that coral bead. So I'm going to pick up a coral bead. I'm going to skip this gold one, and I'm going to go through the next one. And pull it into position. You see how it sets itself out just a little bit here. That'll make it a sticking out bead. So then we're going to do the next color, which is gold. I'm coming out of gold, so I'm going to skip over this first garnet, and I'm going to go through my second garnet. And because I wanted to, make sure you can see what I'm doing clearly, I'm using all these different colored beads. So basically, by using these different colored beads, we're also going to be creating, a spiral effect as we work along. So I'm coming out of my burgundy, so I need to pick that up. Then I need to pass through the gold. I'm going to skip one and pass through the second gold. Now, I'm coming out of my last gold. I'm going to pick up a gold. Excuse me. I've been a little bit sick lately, so bear with me. I'm going to skip this coral, go through the next coral, but then I'm also going to have to step up through the very first bead I added in this round, which is that coral. So you can see I'm skipping this one, but I'm going through these two. And you're going to do that at the end of every row. You'll step up. And it's a lot easier just to do it at the same time, especially when you're working with a spiral or a tube. All right, so now I'm coming out of my coral, so I can pick one of those up. We're going to skip the gold, which is this one here we're skipping. We're going to go through this one that's poking out here on the side. And as we work this row, we're going to try to pull our work upwards to form a cup. To get our tube started, we want to pull kind of up like this. So I'm coming out of gold. Let's pick up a gold. We're going to skip over this burgundy or garnet bead right here. We're going to go through that one that's sticking out. Sometimes it's just easier just to hold on to that tail thread. Alright, so now we're at the garnet. We'll pick up a garnet. We're going to skip that gold bead here and go through this one. And it's pretty easy to see in the beginning the one that's poking out. And if I could just get my needle in it. Okay. Like that. So we're skipping that one and going through this one. We're going to pull up just a little, because we want to start trying to make this thing cup into a cup shape. All right, so now we'll get the gold bead, and we're at the end of our row. So we're going to skip this coral bead right here. We're going to go through this coral bead and step up into the very first one. So remember that every time we're passing into our coral beads, we're going to step up and pass through two. Let's do a couple more rows, and then you'll really be able to see this tube taking shape. So now I'm coming out of coral. I'm going to pick one up. I'm going to skip this gold bead here and go through this one. And you could see that my tube is starting to form. And I can only see basically the two beads each time now. So now I'm going to pick up gold. I'm going to skip, I'm going to skip that burgundy, and I'm going to go through this next burgundy. So this row is a little easier because you can only see two of each color. That second row, you could see three of each color, so you really had to pay a lot more attention there. So now we're going to pick up our burgundy. We're going to skip that gold and go through this one, the one most forward. And here we are back at the end again. I'm going to go ahead and pull up just like this, taking my tail thread in one hand and this working thread in another, and pulling straight across like that. And that helps it to shape the beads a little bit more. This thread's a little bit thick, but I'm using it because I don't want to waste my fire line on a sample. All right, so now I've got my gold bead. I'm at the end, so you know I have to, here I can still see 3 beads. I'm skipping this bead closest to my gold bead, and I'm going to go through these 2 on the other side. And that finishes my row and steps me up to the next row. You can see my lines are starting to look a lot more defined of my different colors. And as you work along, it just gets more and more defined and easier to work with. So here I'm coming out of coral. I'm picking up a coral, skip 1 gold, and go through the second one. And then pretty much that's about all there is to it. For just, you know, regular tubular peyote. Now we did some tubular peyote in the last video to make that bezel cup for a coin bead, but we did it just a little bit differently. We put it onto our dowel, which you can do that here as well if you want to, if it makes it easier for you. But we worked it side to side because we were making a bezel, and then we started making our beads a little bit smaller on each side so that we could close them up around the bead, the coin bead. And you would do the same thing if you were making it peyote bezel for a Swarovski crystal or any other cabochon. So now I am coming out of this burgundy bead. I got to skip a gold and go through a gold. And then I would be back to the end of my row again. So my last color is gold. I'm going to pick that up. And you'll notice again, we can see the 3 coral beads. We're going to skip the first one and go up through the last 2 there, just like that. And because this thread is a 0.008, you see how you can almost see the thread in between the colors? And normally, if I were going to continue on and make this into a bracelet or something, I would use a smaller size thread. Probably a 0.006 or maybe even a 0.004. So anyhow, we've gotten this far, so let's just do a couple more real quick just to show you guys. I'll get enough length on it to where I can show you how you would end your thread. So we're coming out of coral, we're going to skip a gold and go into a gold when we picked up our coral. Now we're going to pick up a gold because we're coming out of gold. We're going to skip 1 garnet, go through the next. We're coming out of the garnet, so we're going to pick that up. We're going to skip 1 gold and go through the next. Working in the tubular, the beads don't poke out as noticeably as they do on flat work, so you'll really want to pay attention to which bead you're putting your needle into. And we're back to the end again, so gold, and we're going to go up through the farthest 2 coral beads. Like that. I really like these colors together. I think it's very pretty. It would actually make a beautiful spiral. All right, let me do one more real quick. So I'm coming out of coral. I'm going to skip 1 gold and go through the next. Picking up coral. Coming out of gold, so pick up a gold. Skip over 1 garnet and go through the next. And those garnet beads are really small. Sorry about that. Now we're coming out of the garnet. We'll pick up a garnet, skip 1 gold, and go through the next. And we're back to the end of the row. But we're coming out of gold, so we'll pick up a gold, and we're going to skip 1 coral and go through the next 2 corals. And that will finish the row and step us up. All right. So now you can really see the spiral, and it looks really pretty. But that's also, I think they call this the Russian spiral, but I can't remember. I'll look it up. Anyhow, so now pretend this is as long as I want it to be. I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can end your thread. You can look, if I take a look at how my beads are laying, this coral bead that my thread is exiting is directly in line with this gold bead right below it. So if I wanted to end my thread, I can stitch back the opposite direction, and I'm going to go through that gold bead and 1 more gold bead. I'll pull my thread. Get my tail thread out of the way here. And then potentially I could just sew down through all of these gold beads till I got to the end. I could stitch through these 2 coral beads that were on the same. Remember, we picked up 8 beads on our first circle. So that's this 2 gold, 2 burgundy, 2 gold, and 2 coral. I could stitch all the way down, stitch through those, tie myself a knot, pass through a few, and end the thread. Or you can weave the thread off. So here I am coming out of that gold bead. I could simply pass through these 2 coral beads above. If you take your thread in this direction, you can see which bead you want to get it go into first, so you don't have any exposed thread. Everything is on the diagonal with peyote when you're trying to stitch back through and maneuver through it. And see, you can really see that thread now because it's so thick, but that's okay. We're going to take this apart later. Then I would simply come to this gold bead directly below the coral bead I'm exiting and work myself through all these beads again. Now I would move down and choose another few to do some looping action. So let's move on down the pike. Let's come through a couple of gold beads on my same diagonal line. Then potentially I could just jump this way. So now my thread is exiting that gold bead. I can go up through the 2 garnet beads to the left. And then I would come right back through those 2 gold beads to the right. And just maneuver down and around. And keep, looping back and forth through the beads until you feel your thread is secure and doesn't have any chance of coming loose out of the beadwork. And that's what's called weaving off. It's a little bit easier to see using these different colors on the peyote. Okay. So here's one I made earlier when I was taking pictures to do a little tubular peyote guide for you guys. Let's take a look at it. So like if we hold these 2 tubes on this end, we can see the 8 beads of our initial ring on each end of this tube. So there's 2 gold, 2 burgundy, 2 gold, and 2 coral. And on this one I used some wild colors. So I have 2 coral, 2 blue, 2 of this mauve color, and 2 green. And if we flip them over, it looks exactly the same way on this end. And then you would, if you were going to attach this to something, you would have to determine which are your poking up beads. Okay. Here is another example of a tubular peyote, or Russian spiral in this instance, made with all 8 OC beads. I think the main difference between just a tubular peyote and a Russian spiral is the size of the beads you use. So most of the videos I've seen on YouTube that are calling this tubular peyote a Russian spiral generally are using 2 different size seed beads, or 2 different size beads. It doesn't have to be seed beads. It can also be crystals or any type of round bead, little pearls or whatever. But this I made a long time ago. I've never finished it, so what I did was I just used it on the end of this cute little hammer, like that. I made myself a little beaded hammer holder. Now, a Cellini spiral, this is an example of a flat Cellini peyote stitch. It's basically the exact same stitch, peyote stitch, And the difference is how you pick up your beads. You will, and you're the size of your beads. So this one has 11 OC beads, Delica beads, some 8 OC beads here, some 6 OC beads, some 4mm crystals. And the way you pick these up and the way that you do the stitch, we'll do one of these later, but that is how you get this beautiful effect of these beautiful curved effects. But a Cellini spiral is just in the tubular form, the exact same thing. You pick up your beads a certain way and different sizes, and also, you know, throw some delicas in the mix, and you come out with this gorgeous stuff. But it's basically just tubular peyote, just with different size beads. Another example of a tubular peyote form is the Dutch spiral. I don't have a video for that yet, but basically you're doing the exact same stitch, which is tubular peyote, but you're actually skipping a different amount of beads to form the Dutch spiral. All right, guys, so I hope that you're getting something useful out of this. I wanted to go ahead and just, since I had done the peyote bezel last week, I thought maybe, or a week or so ago, that it would be a good idea to go ahead and just nail down the, you know, the technique for tubular peyote so that we can move on and learn to create some of these other beautiful spirals. All right, so I want to thank you guys for watching. Head on over to the Alluring Bead Boutique. Check out some of my blog posts over there. I've got some new patterns in the shop, things like that. I will be doing another quick video to show you guys the outcome of the sunburst necklace and get that up for you this week too. All right, guys, thanks for watching and have a great day.